Strong Family. My name is Mara Briere. I am a master's level family life educator, and I am the founder and president of Grow a Strong Family, which is a social service agency that provides customized family life education services to families uprooted by mental illness. I have been a professional for over 30 years, and I have many, many, many loved ones who have been diagnosed with mental illnesses, including bipolar disorder, schizoaffective disorder, narcissistic personality disorder, and I have been interested in working in community-based programs my entire professional career. But it was when my daughter was diagnosed that I became very disconcerted by the fact that there were so few resources that were available for family members. Bad enough that there aren't a lot of resources for adults who have serious mental illnesses, but there was nothing for the family members. And so I endeavored to found this agency that says, let's look at what the needs of family members are, because all of the research informs us that when family members are supported, the outcomes for the individuals with the mental illnesses are much better. So that's me standing by my banner. And tonight we're going to be talking about how to manage when loved ones are symptomatic. We're always frustrated because we wish we knew more, that we had more tools at our disposal. So it was after I went to a wonderful event delivered through the Edinburgh Center, which is a local comprehensive psychiatric and developmentally disabled facility that provides a variety of services, including therapy, psychiatry, training, groups, day treatment, community-based services, emergency services. Well, I went to this seminar that was delivered by their peer specialist, a woman in her probably late 40s who's been managing bipolar disorder on and off for years. And one of the things that she mentioned in her presentation, which was called Inside the Manic Mind, was what her family did when she was starting to get symptomatic. And she said, frankly, I don't really know what my mother does. All I know is that she has some cards that she uses. And since I was sitting there in an audience of professionals and family members, I said, then I'm going to find out, and I'm going to create a presentation that addresses this need. And this is what How to Manage When Loved Ones Are Symptomatic does and how it evolved. And we were very fortunate in being able to receive some wonderful grant funding through the Shana 15, which is a group from Leahy Hospital Medical Center and the Winchester Hospital. And we also received funding through the Concord Carlisle Community Chest, which is a wonderful local organization that is committed to improving services in the community. So we acknowledge you for your efforts. I also want to thank Webinar on Air for teaching us how to do webinars, and the Bedford TV for giving us another way to get the message out, because it is often very difficult for family members to come out live. So it's nice to have these other options. Grow a Strong Family, like I said in the opening, we provide customized family life education services. And probably the one program that few people really know or understand is our coaching program. Coaching is where we do not do therapy, although our activities can be quite therapeutic. Coaching is where we partner with family members and kind of collaborate on what is the best way for your particular family to strategize and maybe learn some skills that are specific to the needs of your family. It is the only program that we currently offer where there is a fee for service. The fee for service is more than a face-to-face or a phone call. It includes a tremendous amount of support. So for example, if somebody purchases the 4-session package and they meet face-to-face with our family life education coach, then they will essentially have 60 days of nonstop support. So the coach will offer a skill and say, let's experiment and see what this is like. And the family says, I don't know how well I'll do this. This is new to me. And then the coach says, so you called it. We tweak it and we discuss it. And this is all included in the fee for service. So it's a very unique approach to working with families, and yet it is the founder's firm belief, a core belief of this agency, that when families are given the opportunity to acquire and develop their skills, they become more effective and efficient, and the research does support that the outcomes for the individuals with the mental illness are therefore increased. So it seems like it's a win for everybody, and we are very committed to providing that opportunity for people. The other things that Grow a Strong Family offers are skill-based presentations like this one. We do pet therapy. It's my dog and I. He is a Pyrenees Springer mix. His name is Max. He's been doing this for 6 years. And we will be happy to go for a walk with you, or just let him sit and put his head on your lap. He likes to perform tricks. But he provides a sense of acceptance and solace that perhaps is hard to come by when we're feeling very stressed out and perhaps a little lost or overwhelmed. Grow a Strong Family has a social media on Facebook, including a public page and a private page. Just plug in Grow a Strong Family Inc. and you'll find yourself there. And you can also visit our webpage, which is growastrongfamily.org. We communicate with various agencies in the community, one of which is the Edinburgh. But there are many others, the Bedford Council on Aging, the Carlisle Council on Aging, the Concord-Carlisle Adult Ed, Chelmsford Community Ed, the Bedford Public Library, Bedford TV. So we're kind of growing. In this webinar, I am going to be introducing you to several strategies from WRAP, which stands for Wellness Recovery Action Plan, the Julie A. Fast Health Card System, Dr. Amador's LEAP program, wherein LEAP stands for Listening, Empathizing, Agreeing to Disagree, and Partnering, and some worksheets that I have on the website as handouts. When our loved ones are stable, start with each of you agreeing that it is in your mutual best interest to diffuse episodes before they become unmanageable. You don't have a conversation with anybody when they're not at a good place. You don't have a conversation with anybody when they're trying to hold on to three words to string them together into a comprehensive sentence. So you want to wait for that time when your loved one is in a good place and you're in a good place, and that you can say, look, let's have a conversation about how we can be more helpful to each other when things get difficult and you know the symptoms start rearing their heads, as often happens in any chronic illness. And you want to find out from your loved ones what strategies, if any, they're aware of that might be helpful, because they're the ones that are living with the symptoms. They usually try some things way before you become aware of the symptoms. So ask them, what are they doing? What are they trying? What's working for them? What's not working for them? And introduce one of the following systems, whichever is most comfortable for you, since you will be the one implementing it and putting it together. The Wellness Recovery Action Plan was developed in 1997 by Dr. Mary Ellen Copeland, who herself is an individual with bipolar disorder. And she has created such a nice system that she has expanded her product, which was originally intended for consumers who had mental illnesses, to she has a family wrap, she has wrap for hoarders, wrap for people with OCD, wrap for people with anxiety. So she's really extended her product and fine-tuned it based on what the particular needs of different diagnoses or consumers are. So it's nice to know that there are some options, and she has a very good program that you can access through her link for WRAP, which is also on our website, growastrongfamily.org. And it's used by healthcare and mental health systems all over the world. It's even used to address chronic health issues, more medical in design, chronic pain, chronic back, whatever the issues are. It's a very nice system because it has been used extensively through rigorous research, which means that it does exactly what it says it is going to do. And what it is going to do is going to create some clarity around what your loved one's needs are and how you can give your loved ones an opportunity to manage their healthcare needs more efficiently and effectively, but also for you to have an idea of what your needs are. And since everything is written down in these lovely little booklets that you can grab and go and look at, you have all of the information that you need right there. Some of the information that is often needed when our loved ones become unstable is what would they like you to do if you have to call their psychiatrist or if you have to hospitalize them? What would you like them to do? What kind of clothes do you want them to bring? What kind of medications have been effective in the past that may be used again in the future? Which ones aren't? If they're using any illicit drugs, this would be a place to even write that down. Without judgment, just, I drink occasionally, I smoke a joint occasionally, whatever it is. It's here in this resource so that you have the information at your fingertips, because what often happens to us as family members is we become very overwhelmed when our loved ones are symptomatic. I'm sorry. So when we become overwhelmed, it's very hard for us to access what is best to do at this time. So when it's nicely written down in this kind of a resource, then you have that information at your fingertips. All the guesswork has been removed. Julie Fast's health card system is a marvelous system. It's 129 pages of incredibly useful information. And the typical health cards have a section for, this is what the symptom looks and feels like to me. This is what I look like physically. These are some things I can do to help myself. This is what is helpful for you to do, and this is something that doesn't help me at all. And her system, Julie's system, goes from symptom, stability, symptom. So, for example, in bipolar disorder, it would go from depression, anxiety, irritability, stability, hypomanic, and then perhaps into mania if somebody gets that high. And you kind of write down, it's another way of documenting, this is what I look like, this is what I'm feeling inside, this is what I think I can do to help myself feel better, this is what's helpful from you, this is what's not helpful from you, and this is when I might need help. So it's another nice way to access the information that you need to have access in order to move forward with your loved one and to be helpful to them. It's a very good resource in particular for mood disorders, including bipolar disorder, and the various spectrum of bipolar disorder. Bipolar 1, which includes mania and oftentimes psychotic behavior. Bipolar 2, which tends to be more heavily weighted towards depression. Bipolar 3, which is milder than the other two, but still problematic and oftentimes will present as anxious, more anxiety-based, more irritable, more angry. Bipolar 2 tends to present more as confusion, some anxiety, but more of that immobilizing depression. And bipolar 1 tends to present as with way more mania, out of control, narcissistic behavior, thinking. The language itself and the way language is used is sometimes a tip-off as well. For example, in bipolar 1, an individual might enunciate their words very carefully and tend to correct everybody in their path. And in bipolar 2, I'm just too tired, can't even deal with this, I can't think, I'm foggy. And in bipolar 3, what did you say that for? So Julie's system I have found to be a very helpful and useful tool. It also teaches partners and family members how to improve communication and assist them in maintaining stability. And the way that Julie suggests doing this is by just looking at the cards. the individual has done the work on the cards, maybe with some help from you. If they refuse to collaborate with you, it doesn't stop you from observing and then seeing. This is what I see really helps. When my loved one is feeling really depressed, I've noticed that she wants to drink more coffee and she adds sugar. And sugar tends to be giving her a short-term high, but it seems to promote more depression. So we've talked about having an alternative to that in the home. Things like that can be useful. Another thing that some people have noticed, you seem to be, have you had a conversation with your provider? It seems like you're having a hard time sleeping. And if you're having a hard time sleeping, it might be helpful for you to maybe look at increasing some of your nighttime meds or starting them, or looking at what your lifestyle options are. Most of the research has told us that many of the ways to manage, especially bipolar disorder, has to do with lifestyle changes. It means a lot for somebody who's bipolar to stay with their schedule, go to bed around the same time, wake up around the same time, eat healthy, try to minimize alcohol and drugs, and to stay with the routine even when there are holidays, even when on vacation, even over the weekend. That overall, that is better for improved health, overall health and well-being, and fewer episodes. The nice thing about the health card system is that it is very effective with individuals of all ages, including children, and can be turned into a game and also into a diary, so that you can look at, well, this was one thing that worked for me when I was younger, and it can be effective for me again, and maybe not. I know a young woman for whom at one point playing guitar was not at all on her radar because she couldn't organize her brain enough. She was very manic-y and psychotic to be able to get her fingers to cooperate on a guitar, but she could do these very intense easy stitch of braiding with embroidery floss because the repetitive nature of the activity was soothing and calming for her. As she became more stable, we were able to reintroduce music, and that has been a benefit for her because she now knows that one of the ways she can stay healthy and at that level of functioning is to integrate this into her daily routine, and that she has done very successfully. So sometimes finding what has been useful over time, even if it's abandoned right now, still gives us a record of what has worked and what hasn't worked and what we can do in the future moving forward. A sample health card looks like this, and you first start looking at the symptoms. So what we do is we describe the symptoms: the pinched mouth and face, feeling overwhelmed, sighing, when we hear a lot of body pain, oh my God, my knees, my joints, a lot of feeling of guilt and worry. So the symptom here would be anxiety, brain racing and looping, restlessness. I say unreasonable things out of anger. There's a clear lack of self-control. It's more knee-jerk. There's less processing going on. That's not the language that was used by this individual, but that's what can observe and see when we notice some of these symptoms of the pinched mouth and the face, and maybe the eyes are narrowed, and that sense of not being able to settle down, or they're moving a lot, or they're rocking. These are all signs of the restlessness, which is usually brought on by anxiety and a feeling of being overwhelmed. And what this individual wrote that she can do, I can do breathing exercises. Now, this is something that can be difficult because while very often our loved ones can have a whole list of things that they can do, when they're in their symptom, it is sometimes very difficult for them to access these resources. And that's where you come in, because you can look at the card and you can say, oh, let's see, she doesn't want me hovering. She doesn't want me to ask her anything. She doesn't need hugs. She feels like that I'm cloying, and she doesn't need that. But what she does want is to spend some time doing things with me that I like. So maybe your loved one can't access the breathing. So what you can do is say, would you practice breathing with me? I have to get better at it. We all can do some restorative breathing, and it will not hurt any of us. And this is something that, based on the health card, your loved one has indicated, this is what's helpful to me. If they do yoga and you do yoga, then you can think about that. Singing. This person takes kava kava, which is an herb, or Ativan, which is a med. Walking, exercising, reminding themselves that this is bipolar, things will get better. Staying away from caffeine or chocolate, which also has caffeine and sugar, tend to be triggers anyway. Very interesting that the big triggers for migraine headaches are also triggers for bipolar disorder, mood episodes. So so if you think about it, if you stay away from preservatives in food, and if the weather is bad, and if it's bad for 2 or 3 days, you might notice that your loved ones are getting a little bit antsy. That's the time to think about having more light in your home, maybe some green plants, maybe even if it's raining, going out for 10 or 15 minutes. Nature time has been proven to be very effective in helping all of us manage better, especially as the days become shorter and colder. Other set of strategies that we use is the LEAP program, and LEAP was developed by Dr. Amador, and Dr. Amador has created the whole LEAP Center, and really what LEAP is our communication strategies. And he features them in this book that he has published and that's been around for 10, 15 years called I Am Not Sick and I Don't Need Help. But you can also go visit the LEAP Institute online and in Long Island, New York City. And the thing about LEAP is that you wouldn't use this all the time, but this is what you would use when you are concerned about your loved one and they're being resistant to getting any help. This is also a very good way to look at some of the situations that you might find with your loved one. For example, they're not cleaning themselves, they're not picking up after themselves, they're not eating properly, they're not taking their meds. You're thinking that they may be dangerous to self or others, but you don't know. LEAP is good for that because what LEAP requires from us is to be very good at listening before speaking. So what we want to do is to basically figure out how to listen in a way that is respectful, that conveys to the other person that you're really hearing where they're coming from. So you're kind of suspending your own agenda for a little while. This is a trick or a strategy that therapists and clinicians use. We don't want to make family members into therapists or clinicians, but we do want to integrate this particular skill into your toolbox because when you have a loved one with a mental illness, there are times when part of your case management routines, because ultimately that's what you are in addition to being a family member, you're a case manager, is to figure out how to listen in such a way that you can reach your loved one so that the two of you are partnered and can more effectively manage together this particular illness and the journey it is taking you on. The difference between mental health and medical conditions like cancer and diabetes is that it is much easier for the medical establishment to create programs to work with family members around their loved ones because in the long run it's not as disruptive to the whole family as a mental illness tends to be. But it is just as valuable and necessary for the family to develop the tools so that their disruption is less. And that's what we're doing. And again, if you want more information and you want the handouts that go with this particular webinar, please visit our website, growastrongfamily.org, and go to our tab that says how to, scroll down to how to manage when loved ones are symptomatic, and you'll find all of that information there. The one nice thing about the LEAP program is when we do these skills, when we use these skills, the result is an immediate lowering of tension, anger, and defensiveness on both our parts. Because what we do as listeners is we create or develop an attitude of curiosity. I am curious. How do you think about this? And one of the strategies that Dr. Amador suggests that I have used as a clinician and as a loved one is to document, write down somehow what it is your loved one is saying. One of the things about writing it down indicates that you're serious about listening. That also means that when there's a pause in the conversation, you can say, let me see if I have this right. And you can just read it back to them. And then you'll get, yep, you got it, or no, that's not really what I meant to say. And again, this method or this way of communicating with our loved ones is also something that can be integrated into the RAP program or into the health card system. This is the how. This is the way that we can get our loved ones to kind of open up and develop greater acceptance and awareness about their illness. One of the things that Dr. Amador discusses is how our loved ones tend to lose insight when they are symptomatic. And one of the gifts we can give them when we're trying to clarify what their symptoms look like, feel like, and how to manage them, when we're doing that, the gift to them is the gift of reclaiming insight. And by them reclaiming insight, they reclaim the responsibility for themselves. And that is a tremendous lifting of the burden that having somebody with a chronic illness in our lives, and for them to be the ones with the chronic illness feeling like they're imposing on their loved ones, it removes that because we're giving it back to them and we're not owning it ourselves. The Center for Clinical Interventions is from Australia. And let me tell you something, Australia has done a tremendous job in providing resources not only for individuals with mental illnesses, but for their family members. And again, I have resources on my website, on the resources page, probably the page for parents. I'm not exactly sure at the moment, but I believe that's where you would find these resources. And you will end up with a wealth of other tools that you can use for your particular situation. The self-management tool is a really nice one. It's a quick, easy worksheet. It's something that might be used if they are coming out of the hospital or they're newly diagnosed or you're realizing that you have a new skill or a new way to come at understanding. Again, that attitude of curiosity is your best friend. So you would look at the self-management tool and you would say, what are the signs that tell me that I am becoming unwell? Depressed or manic, delusional, seeing things, hearing things, whatever it might be, and need to do something about myself. Do you notice how this is, again, giving the responsibility back to the individual for whom the symptom is most direct? And that is empowering to them. It gives them a message of hope. What can I do to prevent myself from becoming unwell? And this question, again, puts them in the driver's seat. And they can say, I don't like it. I don't like that I might have to take meds. And that's another discussion. That's not even a, well, there are things in life we don't like, just, suck it up and deal with it. Not very helpful. If instead we say, we know there are things in your life that are difficult and that the choices are not fun either way. I have a family member who I love dearly, and she becomes psychotic when she becomes ill. Her diagnosis is schizoaffective disorder. And one of the things that she complained to me early on in her journey of trying to find stability, which after 5 years is still elusive, but she says to me, the medication makes me put weight on. And I don't want to be so overweight. I have to get new clothes. And I know that being overweight is unhealthy. This is a woman who has had an athletic scholarship to college. So her body is something that she had as a finely tuned machine who, because she's, dual diagnosed and has many other issues, has not been quite the machine that it had once been. So, but still gaining weight is an issue for her. And we had many a conversation, and what the final upshot of it is, honey, you have a choice. Your choice is to be unwell and probably dangerous to yourself. She tends to have very strong suicidal behavior, and it's a miracle that she is still with us. Or you'll be a little heavy and we can get you nice clothes. Clothes can be replaced, honey. You can't be. And that she'll say that to me, and then we hug and we move on from there. But you'll know with your loved one what it is that will enable them to get to a better place of acceptance, not only about their illness and the symptoms, about some of the solutions. None of the solutions are great, but there are solutions. What situations are potential problems for me? Knowing what the triggers are is really important because it gives you and your loved one something to strategize about. When my daughter became ill, one of the things that she said to me was, Mom, I really don't want to do the holidays. They're just too much for me. They're too stimulating. They're too hard. I just want to go away and have a very low-key time. And we tried that only to find out that actually anything to do with holidays, and it's pretty hard to escape it in our culture, especially around winter holidays, she got triggered, and it was ugly. And it gave us a really good insight that maybe that is the time to have less contact rather than more, or for us to go to her rather than for her to come to us, because we decorate for the holidays and she didn't want to, so she didn't have that at her home. It didn't mean she had to be alone, and it didn't mean we didn't have to do the holidays. We just had to come up with a strategy for doing them differently. And this is true with other situations. I worked with a family whose loved one couldn't get out of her house to take the ride to go to school. And so we talked about baby steps, knowing that the ride, at least in Massachusetts, allows someone to go with you for free. They don't have to pay for themselves. That was something we looked at in order to create the way to get this young woman to go to college. So once you know what the trigger is, you are also given an insight into what possible solutions are, or at least you can start the discussion. What are some things my friends and family may say to me if I am becoming unwell? One, again, because insight tends to start running away and not being evident with our loved ones. They, in my experience, can become very angry and very defensive when you start, as concerned loved ones, we do this, when we start talking to them about, well, you don't seem to be doing too well, or have you considered this, or so what's a more effective approach that we can take? Give us language, give us words, help us with this. And again, using LEAP, so what I hear you saying is that when I notice that you're not doing as well, it would be more helpful for me to signal you by providing a meal that I only provide when I notice you're not. Well, I had a family where that was a solution, and it worked for them for a period of time, so I don't knock any solution that anybody finds is going to work. Solutions are as unique as our loved ones and our families are. How can I respond to what they say? One of the things about our loved ones, especially if we're the caretaker, is that they are so good at targeting our weak spots, at triggering us, at targeting our weak point. I hate you. You're selfish. You never right. You're so unfair. You're so mean. You're so cruel. I can't believe you think you're so good at what you do. Oh, my goodness. I've heard a lot of things, a lot of very not nice things. The best response in general is to say nothing. Certainly don't take it personally. This is about when individuals attack, it's because they're feeling vulnerable. They're feeling unsafe. Recognizing that the purpose of the attack is for you to be so focused on yourself that you're not noticing them. It's for you to be hurt and angry so that you'll want nothing to do with them. That keeps them feeling safe. It's not healthy. It's distorted thinking on their part, but this is what their illness might look like. Don't take it personally. Don't react to it. If you do react, you can say something as simple as, well, that's one way to look at things. Again, without sarcasm, and don't take it personally. So that really is the best way to respond, because you really need to not get involved in the fight, because all the fight is going to do is trigger both of you, and that erodes the relationship at the one time that your loved one really needs you to hang in there. So recognize that as targeted as it seems to be, it is not. And what strategies and techniques have I found most helpful and will continue to practice? Anything that has been successful in the past, that is still successful today, is likely to be successful moving forward. You mark that, you put it in some kind of a color code that will strike you as green. I like green for go, red for stop, and that helps. Again, having it color-coded is helpful in another way, and that's because when we're scared, when we're overwhelmed, when we're concerned, we don't think clearly. When we're in the emotional state, we're not in the thinking state. So as a result of that, we have to get back into the thinking state, and having things color-coded helps us get there quicker. So be prepared to do that. Some thought management tools, which, again, another set of helpful resources, is common unhelpful thoughts when my mood is depressed. What are they? Have them write them down. Have them write down what I can say to myself in response. This is, by the way, true for us as caregivers. So, for example, an unhelpful thought when my mood is depressed is, I'm feeling really overwhelmed. Is it really worth it for me to continue to do what I'm doing? That's me when I'm not feeling up to it, when I'm depressed. What can I say to myself in response? What can I say to myself that's different? That's how you're feeling right now. You're probably tired. So how can you take better care of yourself? Can you set this aside for now and look at it after you've had rest and you've eaten a good meal? Because in my case, that's when I tend to get down. So I know that, so I know how to feed myself the better responses. Common unhelpful thoughts when my mood is manic. This is for when your loved one is manic, but some of their unhelpful thoughts are how slow everything is, how noisy everybody is, how they don't think quickly enough. And what can you say to yourself in response that would be more balanced? Maybe it's not them that's slow, maybe it's me that's fast. I need to take a look at that. Some of the support options that our loved ones have that would go on this worksheet: who is their general practitioner or their psychiatrist? Who is their prescriber? Good to know who that person is. Even better if you can get your loved ones to sign a release so that you can have back and forth conversations with this individual. If you cannot, at least you have the information. They may not be able to talk to you, but you can always leave a message for them. Counselors and agencies that your loved ones are involved with, again, a release is wonderful because it allows a conversation, a dialogue. This is what I see going on with my loved one. How are they there? This is how they are here. I'm glad we talked. But if there's no release or your loved one refuses to sign a release, you still can send the information to the agencies and to the counselors. In fact, on the worksheet, it's useful to also have email addresses, because very often having it in writing is a form of documentation that even though they can't respond to you, they'll have it at their fingertips. Who are their friends? In particular, the friends that they are most likely to reach out to who would understand about what their needs are. Again, email addresses also helpful with phone numbers. Other family members that you can call on or that they can call on who are understanding. Any other resources or tools or people that your loved one has in their network of supports. You want all of that to be written down. Your plan of action. This is what we want to work out with our loved ones. What are their most significant early warning signs? What are the warning signs of mania and what are the warning signs of depression? This is where your observation and your reflection as loved ones is helpful. If they don't know, you can start. And you can say, have you noticed this? This is something that we've noticed. Did you realize that? Does this ring true for you? And just asking questions rather than making statements and asking for feedback is way more likely to enter into a conversation and a dialogue without judgment, criticism, or defensiveness. So remember to make statements into questions and act with a real attitude of curiosity. Part of the plan of action is also to think about relapse prevention. The mental health industry has adopted the recovery model from Alcoholics Anonymous and Codependence Anonymous and all of those 12-step programs because as effective as they are, and those programs are about 44%, which is what the research is indicating, effective in helping individuals become sober, which, by the way, is better than anything else out there. Treatment programs, rehab programs are only about 25% effective. There's nothing 100% effective. The only thing many of the rehab and recovery treatment programs integrate 12-step programs into their model because that's in the community and it's free and it's accessible to everyone. And so mental health has been integrating that model into discussing and managing mental illnesses. So there's the relapse prevention is trying to keep the episodes from becoming extreme, from having someone go in from deep depression into high mania and back and forth, having somebody who's schizophrenic to, when they start hearing voices, to be able to communicate that before it becomes a full-blown psychotic episode and they lose their grasp of reality. So what do you need to do to prevent a full-blown manic episode? That's the conversation. What do you think you need to do to prevent a full-blown psychotic episode of any kind? What do you need to prevent a full-blown depressive episode? What are your triggers? Understanding and knowing those things and what the behaviors are, what the body feels like, what foods you eat, all helpful tools to be examining while we're working on helping our loved ones maintain stability and achieve a greater balance for themselves in their lives. So the plan of action includes relapse prevention, what you ask your family and friends to do for them, and what they ask their family and friends to say to them. So again, we want their input into what is useful. And by the way, if they can tell us what is useful, they won't take our heads off when we start talking to them, because I know that more than one or two of us has had that happen to us in the past. Regardless of the plan that you decide to use, and these are the 3 or 4 that I found to be really helpful, but there are others out there. Regardless of the plan, always start when your loved one is stable. We don't do this when they're in the middle of an episode of any kind. When they're in that, for all intents and purposes, their brain is distorted. They're not in the thinking state. They're in the emotional state, not the thinking state. Can't talk to anybody when they're not in the thinking state. Approach with an attitude of curiosity and respect, and agree on what the symptoms look like. And what we're doing is we're just trying to get clarity about something that is objective. It's not me thinking that you're angry. It's the anger, and this is what it looks like. And there are, the face looks a certain way. It looks this way when it's angry. It looks this way when it's sad. It looks this way when it's happy. And it's being able to use language to describe that, to become clear about that, so that it's objective information, and how do you want us to manage what we're seeing, and in their case, what they're feeling. The other thing all plans have is an emergency plan. What do we do in the event that you're not safe at home or with others? Always stick to what is normal for the family as much as possible. As much as you can, stick to your normal routines. Eat and drink in moderation. Plan on exercise, build in nature time. Make sure you have a plan B, a plan C, a plan D, a plan E. Expect the unexpected. The more you have options, the less likely you'll be thrown overboard by whatever happens with your loved ones. I have found that keeping music around that I love and that calms me down is really helpful. I don't have to have it on all the time, but because I don't remember when I'm feeling anxious and overwhelmed about my loved one's well-being, I will actually put a sticky near the phone and near my speaker, and also in the bathroom because I like to listen to music when I'm taking a shower. Prioritize your time and activities and commitments. Do what you can. and do what you want to. And if you don't know if you're able to do something, or even if you want to do something, become very good at saying, I'll have to check my schedule, I'll get back to you. If anybody needs an answer right now, in my experience, if you need an answer right now, the answer is no. But if you give me a little time to get back at you, I can give you a better answer, or I can at least see if it's doable for me. And that gives you a chance to say, you know what, my loved one is they just got home from the hospital. They're kind of fragile. I'm not comfortable leaving them alone for an extended period of time in addition to work. So I'm going to say no to X, Y, and Z, but I might say yes to something else. We get very good at this kind of stuff when we buy ourselves the time that we need to take good, loving care of ourselves. The other thing to be thinking about, this isn't your first go-round, especially if you're a parent, of having to do this. You did this when your children were little. You did this when your children were teenagers. The only difference is that we never expect to have to do it as our children become adults and well into adulthood. Mental illness is a chronic, lifelong illness. It usually comes on between the ages of 18 and 30. And very often in the college years, and in our children's 20s, it is probably the most serious because it's new. We don't know yet what the illness is going to look like or feel like, how it's going to respond to medications. And it's also the time when our loved ones are supposed to be creating their own lives. So there is still a bit of that adolescent, it's my life, I don't want you involved, but they need you to be involved. Very difficult time for them as well as for you guys, for us as family members and as parents. In this webinar, we discussed the WRAP program, which is the Wellness, I'm tired, the Wellness Recovery Action Plan, the Health Card System, the LEAP program, which stands for Listening, Empathizing, Agreeing to Disagree, and then to Partner, and we looked at several worksheets. We have a list of resources that are available to you on our website, growastrongfamily.org, and as well as on our resources page, as well as on the page where the webinar appears. We also presented this on TV, so there is a TV show of this presentation that you can watch as well. If you're looking for more information about Grow a Strong Family, please visit our website, growastrongfamily.org. And we always like to remind everybody that we want you to take what you like and leave the rest. We bring you this content and this information in the hopes that it will give you greater information so that you can make decisions that are more in line with what you and your family need. So if you have other resources and tools that you wish to share with us, please do so. Visit our website, use our contact form. We really want to know what else has worked. And if you enjoyed this presentation and would like us to do other presentations, it would be very helpful if you fill out an evaluation form so that we can continue getting funding for these presentations and we can develop new ones based on what you have indicated to us that you would like. Thank you so much for joining us this evening and at any time that you do visit us, and we hope this has been very useful to you.